Tonight, parking predicament.
It wasn't just me, it was like all these neighbors. Everyone's paying tickets and getting towed for completely nonsensical reasons.
Drivers left frustrated and looking to get their money back after a late night no parking switcheroo. Also tonight,
we're trying to make friendly Manitoba environmentally friendly Manitoba.
The province lays out its long-term plan for reaching net zero emissions. Plus, searching for salvage.
There's a bunch of vehicles down there.
Why crews were trying to pull vehicles out of the Red River and what they managed to find.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Temporary no parking zones due to road work are pretty common in our city. Signs spell out exactly when you can't park, and there's usually a lot of notice, but not in one neighborhood. Standing by live to explain tonight is CTV's John Hendricks. John, how much notice did they have?
Virtually none, Marilee. People went to bed thinking they had 24 hours, but they woke up to their vehicles being towed. On a Tuesday this past May, Tricia Brock parked on Home Street in the evening and awoke to an unpleasant surprise. The city had towed her vehicle away.
Usually they do a courtesy tow, but they impounded and gave me a ticket. It was $350.
Leo Coppolo had a similar experience, but he actually saw his vehicle being towed.
So I sprint down the block, truck turns a corner, I turn a corner, it turns another corner, I turn another corner. Finally, he sees me waving him down in his rearview mirror and stops.
The driver told him there was no parking allowed on Home Street that day, and there was even a sign telling residents not to park Wednesday. The only problem, on Tuesday, the sign had a different date on it.
Somebody has put a sticker over the sign that changed it from no parking Thursday to no parking Wednesday at night.
Coppolo contested his ticket, and the fine was eventually reduced to $0. However, he hasn't been reimbursed for the cost of the tow, and Tricia Brock never got a cent back.
It was not enough notice, and a few of us on the street had to pay for it.
All these neighbors, everyone's paying tickets and getting towed for completely nonsensical reasons, and then no support. So,
Now, Leo Coppolo reached out to the Winnipeg Parking Authority to try and get a refund for the tow. However, he was told that refunds are only granted in cases where the vehicle was towed unlawfully, not in cases of personal circumstances. And so the request for a refund was denied.
Frustrating. Okay, John, what is the city saying about all this?
Marilee, we reached out to the city for information about this situation. A spokesperson tells CTV News they're going to need a little more time to investigate this further.
All right. Thanks for this, John. Mounties have issued a warrant for an armed robbery suspect. They're looking for this man, 34-year-old Jordan Walker. He faces charges of armed robbery, uttering death threats, and dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. The charges stem from an incident on September 30th near the Red River in East Selkirk. RCMP say a man armed with a hatchet approached two fishermen and stole their vehicle. If you have any information about Jordan Walker, call 911, Selkirk RCMP, or Crime Stoppers. The Manitoba government has introduced its long-term plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. CTV's Taylor Brock joins us now with those details. Taylor, the government's goal is net zero emissions by 2050. So what's the plan to get us there?
Well, Marilee, today the province unveiled a 43-point plan to reach net zero emissions, but rather than focus on specific projects, it's really more of a guiding document laying out how environmentally friendly decisions should be made going forward. The plan includes a new climate change committee of cabinet tasked with making sure all policies consider climate risks and opportunities, partnering with Indigenous nations on clean energy projects, working with the business and education sectors to make sure new technologies lead to jobs and that young people are taught about career paths in a low carbon economy. The province also wants to have a net zero electricity grid by 2035 and reduce northern communities' reliance on diesel and fossil fuels. Now, in terms of agriculture, the plan calls on the government to shore up beneficial management practices, focusing on emission reductions, carbon sequestration, and transitioning to low-emission energy systems. And the plan calls to build up public transportation province-wide and Manitoba's electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
Well, one of the things that I hear as minister and from the experts is that typically you want a charger about every 150 kilometers or so. And so we're currently mapping those things out. Really exciting piece of that Manitoba hydro charging stations right to Thompson, so that people in the north, people in rural communities can have that pathway from Winnipeg all the way up to Thompson. It's going to be 6 charging stations. I believe they're going to have about 4 ports each, if I'm not mistaken.
So Taylor, any reaction to this plan so far?
Well, Mayor Lee, we heard from the PC Environment and Climate Change critic after a question period in the legislature today. Greg Nesbitt says the NDP government was slow to come up with a plan and that it's short on detail.
I think it's remarkable that this NDP government is 2 years in, and this is the first time we've heard serious talk about the environment. So I would think that perhaps the Premier and his colleagues are pandering to the environmental people and just putting this out without much detail.
NDP Environment and Climate Change Minister Mike Moy says the plan is going to be broken down into actionable 3-year plans, the first of which is already in development.
All right, thanks for this, Taylor. Manitoba's Legislative Assembly will be voting on potential fines for Manitoba's former Premier and other MLAs stemming from an ethics report into a controversial silica sand mining project. Cabinet Minister Nahani Fontaine says it will be debated in Tuesday's sitting, no matter how long it takes.
There's some very serious things in the ethics report, and I would submit that Manitobans want to see the debate and want to have some accountability and transparency.
It comes after Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner found Heather Stephenson, former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen, and former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton tried to push through a controversial silica sand mining project after the Tories lost the 2023 election, but before the new NDP government was sworn in. The Ethics Commissioner found no evidence Stephenson, Cullen, or Wharton had financial stakes in the project, but says their efforts to approve it, quote, lacked ethical and constitutional legitimacy. He recommended all 3 of them be fined. Fontaine says she wants those involved to answer questions about the matter Tuesday. PC leader Abhi Khan says he has no ability to demand Stephenson speak to this in the legislature.
Called on the Premier to bring it forward time and time again. Whenever they brought it up, bring it forward, let's debate. We accept the findings. The member from Red River North accept the findings. Let's move forward.
Khan says Wharton previously agreed to pay his fine. Fontaine expects the sitting will take a considerable amount of time. A mystery lurks at the bottom of the Red River in Selkirk. Several vehicles are submerged there, and a local salvage company is trying to bring some answers to the surface. CTV's Danton Unger was on the banks of the river as one of those vehicles was pulled up.
Emerging from the murky depths of the Red River, this truck has been returned to dry land. All part of a cleanup and salvage effort by Submerged Underwater Services.
I'm pretty sure whoever used to own this probably doesn't want it back.
Sean Gertson says his team came across the truck using sonar during a training exercise, but on Monday, when they dove down to pull it up, they discovered there was a lot more than they first thought.
When you look at the sonar, it looked like 3, maybe 4. As it is right now, I don't know. I mean, there could be 7, could be 8.
Getting them out is no easy task. A diver has to swim 23 feet down and attach these massive airbags to the vehicle. A crane is then able to hoist it from the water. For this truck alone, the process took hours.
It was just really difficult because, again, everything was buried up past the wheels.
As for how it ended up in the river, Gertson says that's for the police to determine. Officers were on site Monday running the truck's license plate and VIN number to see if it's connected to any crimes or MPI reports.
For whatever reason, it's still a crime that these are in the drink, right? So they just got to figure out what, why, and how. And so on and so forth.
This is all welcome news for local fishers.
Besides all oil and gas in there, and people are fishing here and they're getting snagged all the time.
Hopefully it'll make a difference, hopefully, and hopefully people don't do it again.
For Gertson, he says he's happy to be doing his part to clean up the Red River, one submerged vehicle at a time.
At some point, someone has to do something and go recover this stuff and do something about it. So, you know, might as well be us.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Selkirk.
CTV's Daniel Helmerson joins us now with the first look at your Skywatch evening forecast. After a cool, wet weekend, Danny, what do you have in store for us the work week?
Well, relatively nice day today after all that rain. We got about 30 millimeters here in Winnipeg, over in Sprague, about 60 millimeters on Saturday night, Sunday morning. So today, though, fairly cool temperatures, seasonal averages. Now, it's going to get cold and maybe even frosty tonight, but coming up, I'll tell you how warm it's going to get later in the week and if it's going to last through to Thanksgiving. Taking a look at the CTV Live Eye right now, 10 degrees outside under partly cloudy skies. The wind out of the south-southwest at 19, gusting up to 30. The pressure's dropping, the humidity sitting at 58%.
Thanks, Danny.
The Bathfitter Live Eye is brought to you by Bathfitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years.
An inmate has been killed in a stabbing at Stony Mountain Institution. Stonewall RCMP were called to the federal prison north of Winnipeg Wednesday. Mounties found an inmate stabbed. The 27-year-old man died at the scene. Two fellow inmates, a 26-year-old from Cross Lake and a 22-year-old from Winnipeg, are now charged with second-degree murder. Stonewall RCMP and Major Crimes are investigating. A Winnipeg City Councilor's push to look at tougher regulations for the use of fireworks is sparking a reaction. Janice Lukes wants to know what other cities do in terms of fines, permits, and restrictions, and says while fireworks are good for celebrations, they can also be dangerous and disruptive. With more on this, CTV's Jeff Keel joins us now live. So, Jeff, how are fireworks shops responding to this review?
One of the owners we spoke to said that they were blindsided by this, saying the current rules in place now work just fine.
But the booms and the bangs could soon
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. We'll see if we can get that story refreshed for you and get Jeff back on with more details on it. Stay with us. In the meantime, a number of people were forced from their homes early this morning due to a fire in St. Boniface. Video sent to CTV News shows smoke and flames pouring into the air during a fire at an apartment building in the 300 block of Enfield Crescent. The city says crews were sent there shortly before 2 a.m. while the building itself was unoccupied. A neighboring apartment building was evacuated as a precaution. It was declared under control about 3 hours later. No one was injured and the cause is still under investigation. A city councillor has resigned from his position on the Winnipeg Police Board. Councillor Marcus Chambers, who served as chair and represents the St. Norbert-Seine River ward, resigned at the beginning of the month. Chambers served on the police board since 2018. Vice Chair Colleen Mayer will now take over his duties until a new chair is appointed. A reason for the decision was not given. A first-of-its-kind addiction clinic is offering culturally safe and accessible addiction services to urban and remote communities. The Mobile Action Network Clinic officially opened today on Ellis Avenue. It serves as a hub connecting remote Island Lakes communities to address urgent mental health and addiction needs. The model uses peers with lived experience, Indigenous leadership, and healthcare providers to deliver services that meet people where they live.
This population needs to be able to access services at home. Everybody should be able to access any healthcare services at home, but specifically when it comes to addictions and mental health, that's vitally important, and it is life-changing and life-saving.
Manitoba continues to see some of the highest opioid and alcohol-related death rates in Canada. More than half of those seeking urgent services identify as Indigenous. More Manitobans are inching towards insolvency. How many more people are less than $200 away from not being able to pay their bills? Plus, the U.S. president continues to threaten Democrat-run cities with troop deployments. Those stories and more when we return.
Your morning just got a little brighter. Start your day with CTV Your Morning, and you could win $20,000. For your chance to win, watch CTV Your Morning Winnipeg, weekday mornings 6 to 9.
Taking a look at the markets tonight, oil added 43 cents, reaching about $61 US a barrel. The Canadian dollar also inched up slightly. Gold jumped more than $71 an ounce, while the TSX closed 168 points higher. The Dow Jones dipped by more than 67 points, while the Nasdaq was up about 111 points. Households across Manitoba and Saskatchewan are inching closer to insolvency. MNP's latest consumer debt report suggests 43% of residents are within $200 of not being able to pay their monthly bills. That's up 10 percentage points from last quarter. The amount of money the average resident has left over after expenses also fell $256 in just the last 3 months to $750. That's the sharpest decline in all of Canada. One quarter says they are reducing their utility consumption, such as heating their homes as a result, and one quarter say they're eating less to save money. Prime Minister Mark Carney is off to Washington again for another high-stakes meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. And while the Carney government is trying to temper expectations, there is pressure on the Prime Minister to find some tariff relief for hard-hit sectors like steel and aluminum. CTV's Mike Couture reports.
Canadian officials are cautiously optimistic that tomorrow's meeting could pave the way for some relief on steel tariffs. And politicians from both sides of the border are hoping for the same.
I'll be very blunt. You never know what comes out of a meeting with President Trump.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is hoping for some tariff relief, but says the U.S. president will say one thing one day and then change course the next. At a gathering of governors and premiers from around the Great Lakes, Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro said tariffs are hurting the U.S.
We're still seeing prices go way up because the president decided to push the tariff button and drive up costs on the American people. It is dangerous, the rhetoric he's engaged in, and his practices are making things cost more.
U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum remain at 50%, while Trump is increasing levies on other products like softwood lumber and wood furniture. One former special advisor on Canada-U.S. relations for then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau believes Tuesday's meeting could yield some progress.
Either because you hope that you're close to an agreement and you would like to push it over the finish line with a signature moment and a handshake and an opportunity, or to push forward on something that's stalled or slowed.
Expectations are high from opposition leader Pierre Poilievre. In a letter to the Prime Minister, the Conservative leader demanded Carney keep his campaign promise to negotiate a win, including the removal of all tariffs on Canadian goods. A White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, says trade will be one of the many issues discussed between Carney and Trump when they meet in the Oval Office. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
The federal government is changing when it delivers the budget and how it calculates expenditures. From now on, all budgets will be delivered in the fall. The Liberals say the changes will provide more clarity, but critics say it's just a move to downplay increasing debt. CTV's Judy Trin has those details.
In a break with long-standing practice, the finance minister says all future budgets will come down in the fall, enabling the government to get transfer payments out earlier in the fiscal year.
It's also going to provide more predictability, I would say, for provinces and territories. I've been talking to them, businesses and organizations that rely on federal funding.
The Liberals are also changing the budget framework to separate day-to-day spending from capital investments. Operational day-to-day costs include health and social transfers and government salaries, while capital investments encompass spending on major projects, housing, clean energy, and infrastructure.
When will the budget be balanced?
At the Finance Committee, the opposition slammed the minister for budget changes that don't add up.
Debt is still debt at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many columns you try to present in front of Canadians and try to trick them. Are you guys going to be cooking the books?
It's irresponsible for a member of parliament to use language like that.
I will say that. It's irresponsible.
The changes come after the interim parliamentary budget officer estimated that Canada's deficit will grow to $68.7 billion this year. Some economists say clearly showing how much the government is spending on capital investment is important.
What are we using debt finance for? Is it for, for capital investment, like, in terms that will be there for decades? Or is it for current consumption?
The government says it will balance its operational budget, the day-to-day spending, in 3 years. For more details, the finance minister says we'll have to wait until November 4th when he tables the budget. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
There are job cuts coming to the passport office, and the union is warning it will create delays in services. The union says 250 jobs will be cut in the passport program. This after 800 job cuts last May. The Canada Employment and Immigration Union is calling the cuts a direct attack on workers and warns of delays, backlogs, and service disruptions. Donald Trump is trying to deploy the National Guard into American cities, specifically democratically led cities. And the cities and states are fighting back. Christiane Cordero explains.
Today, the Trump administration vows sending troops to American cities will continue, despite a ruling over the weekend that the National Guard cannot be deployed to Portland, Oregon. The Trump-appointed judge in that case said the president's descriptions of protests there were, quote, simply untethered to the facts.
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law.
For weeks, President Trump has vowed to deploy National Guard troops to several cities over what the White House calls ongoing violent riots and lawlessness. Memphis is providing the administration with a clear path to carry out law enforcement duties, with Tennessee's Republican governor working with the administration. However, leaders in several other states, including Oregon and Illinois, are not complying.
The Trump administration must end the war on Chicago.
During protests in Chicago over the weekend, a 30-year-old woman was shot and injured by a Border Patrol agent who claimed self-defense after Homeland Security officials allege she was armed and used her car to ram a federal vehicle. Trump now plans to deploy the Texas National Guard to Chicago with the help of Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Officials in Illinois today filed a lawsuit trying to block that from happening.
Donald Trump is using our service members as political props and as pawns in his illegal effort to militarize our nation's cities.
Without cooperation from a state's governor, the administration is limited to using the National Guard to protect federal buildings and personnel. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
In Egypt, indirect negotiations began today between Israel and Hamas. Both sides have endorsed the overall principles of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan. It would see an end to the fighting, the release of the hostages, and an influx of aid to Gaza. But they're seeking clarification of crucial details of the proposal. Some of the contentious issues include demands Israel pull out of the enclave and Hamas lay down its weapons. The plan has the backing of Arab and Western countries. Tomorrow is the second anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel, which killed 1,200 people. 251 others were taken hostage. Israel's retaliatory military campaign has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians. France is in political chaos again. The prime minister has resigned just 24 hours after naming his government. He was named to the office less than a month ago. Sébastien Lecornu is a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron. He was the country's fourth prime minister in a year. And now there are calls for President Macron to resign as well or call a snap election. There are still about 200 climbers stranded by a blizzard near Mount Everest. Tibetan firefighters have already guided about 350 climbers to safety, but about 200 are still trapped around halfway up the world's tallest mountain. The blizzard over the weekend forced many to abandon their attempts to reach the summit.
So they said they are not going to cover everything.
If you're buying a car, you might be pitched gap insurance. It's supposed to pay off your loan if you owe more than your vehicle is worth. But as some drivers have learned, gap insurance does not cover everything.
And plenty of sunshine coming your way midweek. Before the Thanksgiving weekend, I'll have your complete Skywatch forecast coming up.
We're learning more tonight about the upcoming Grey Cup Festival. Organizers have announced 3 initiatives. First, flag football kits are going to more than 900 Manitoba schools through a partnership with Football Manitoba and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The kits will include footballs, flags, and a curriculum plan. Second, the Grey Cup Trophy is heading north to spotlight culture and attractions in 3 communities. Stops are scheduled for Flin Flon, Thompson, and Churchill. And third, festival organizers are focusing on bilingualism, media releases and media conferences, marketing materials, plus the festival website will all be in both English and French. The 2025 Grey Cup Festival will take place the week before the 112th Grey Cup on Sunday, November 16th at Princess Auto Stadium. All right, back now to a Winnipeg City Councilor's push to look at tougher regulations for the use of fireworks, which is sparking a reaction from retailers. Once again, here's CTV's Jeff Keel with the story.
When fireworks light up the night sky, they're usually set off to celebrate an occasion. But a Winnipeg City Councilor says they can also be a safety hazard.
Sometimes we have a little bit of rogueness that goes on.
Waverley West Councillor Janice Lukes has concerns people are shooting off fireworks without a permit and in their backyard, which may be too small and at all hours. So she wants a review to find out what other jurisdictions do in terms of fines, permits, regulation, and enforcement around the use of fireworks on private and public properties, and which cities have bans in place.
I just feel we're sitting on a tinderbox in Waverley West with all our native grasses everywhere. We do have twice the amount of green space as anywhere else in the city.
Right now, you must get a free permit in Winnipeg to set off fireworks or face a $500 fine, and displays must be at least 30 meters from the nearest building. The co-owner of Red Bomb Fireworks says this review caught them off guard.
So surprise, shock, making problems that probably don't exist.
Matt Bialik says the current bylaw in Winnipeg works well. He worries stricter regulations could hurt sales and says the real issue is a lack of enforcement.
We do not know how many incidents are occurring with fireworks in the city of Winnipeg, and we don't know what the enforcement action is when a conflict does come up.
At Archangel Fireworks, owner Kelly Giles says they expect to be consulted on any changes.
Quite often people writing regs have no idea what they're doing. So as long as industry is part of it and understood and our concerns are heard, I don't think it's going to be negative for us at all.
This comes as Diwali, a Hindu festival where fireworks are set off, is held on October 20th.
I think we have enough regulation put on already.
Now, Lukes adds she is not looking for an outright ban, but as an example, some cities in Ontario have full bans, others restrict use to just certain holidays. A local curling league is celebrating 20 years of inclusive curling in Manitoba. The Keystone Rainbow Curling League kicked off its 20th season with a ceremony at Granite Curling Club Sunday. The league emphasizes sport, community, and connection. League founder Trevor Harris says it started by a search for connection with the 2S LGBTQ community through curling.
At a time across Canada where a lot of curling clubs are struggling and a lot of leagues are finding it hard to maintain memberships, to see this league growing by leaps and bounds and so much every year, I think that's just a huge success story.
The league now has 45 teams and is set to host the Canadian Pride Curling Championship in 2027, bringing teams from all across the country to Winnipeg.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
All right, Danny's back now with your complete Skywatch forecast. I got to be honest, I was afraid after this weekend that fall was over and it was all downhill, but your long-range forecast looks like it's going to make a nice rebound.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awful weekend. Let's not sugarcoat that. Today, though, not too bad here in Winnipeg. We had about 11 degrees mid-afternoon, and it's a little windy, but not too bad. Now, over the coming hours, here in the south, fairly clear skies. Up north, they could see a mix of rain, a little bit of sleet, even a few snow flurries. I actually received from a friend up in Thompson some snow up there already. Moving overnight now, it is going to get quite cold overnight here in southern Manitoba, dipping down to below zero, yes. it's starting. I'm so sorry. But there is that risk of frost. Now, Environment and Climate Change Canada doesn't issue frost advisories after growing season, so we don't have a warning for that, but something to be keep in mind over the next couple nights, actually, because Tuesday night is expected to be pretty cool as well. But then Wednesday through to the weekend, we should see plenty of sunshine, above seasonal temperatures, right through to Thanksgiving. But tonight here in Winnipeg, dipping down to -1, that risk of frost under mainly clear skies. The wind out of the northwest at 15. Move over here, I mentioned it last hour as well. Tonight is the first supermoon of the year. That's when the moon is closest to the earth. It's a harvest moon as well, so something a little special to keep an eye out for. Tomorrow morning when you're heading to work and getting the kids ready for school, going to feel pretty cold still. The wind chill feeling like -5. Mainly sunny though, the wind out of the northwest still at 10. And tomorrow afternoon, high of 10 degrees, mainly sunny, wind out of the west at 10. And taking a look around the rest of the province, up north in Thompson, dipping down to -6 tonight. -1 in Churchill, but mainly sunny skies throughout the region tomorrow. In the northwest, I'll come back. You know what, I'll move to this side. I haven't done this in about a month. So those dance steps get a little confusing. -3 in the Paw and Flin Flon, but tomorrow, plenty of sunshine throughout that region. To our west, out in Brandon, -4 tonight, even cooler than it is here. Similar up in Dauphin, but plenty of sunshine and seasonal average temperatures tomorrow. Taking a look in the capital region, and I'll get a little bit out of the way here, -1 throughout most of it, but tomorrow, plenty of sunshine, a few clouds here and there, and just over the border in northwest Ontario. Get out of the way for Fort Frances there, 4 degrees tonight, up to 12 tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud. And our first Skywatch pick of the day comes from Beverly. This is up in Norway House. Check out all those pinks, oranges, and yellow hues. Incredible. And this one from Vaughan out in Inglis, that's up in, I believe, northwest of Brandon, the northern lights there during harvest. Incredible picture. Keep them coming and send them to Winnipeg Weather at ctv.ca.
The CTV Skywatch Pick of the Day is brought to you by MJ the Musical at Centennial Concert Hall, November 5th to 9th.
If you're buying a new or used car, you may be pitched gap insurance. It can pay off your loan if you owe more than your car is worth. Gap insurance can be expensive, and as one owner found out, it doesn't cover everything if your car is written off or stolen. CTV's Pat Foran explains.
In March of this year, Sujesh Pudenvitil of Mississauga bought a 2023 Audi A4. Unfortunately, in June, just 3 months later, the car was stolen.
Middle of the night from my driveway.
With financing, he paid almost $54,000 for the car. Included in the price, he also paid for a 3-year maintenance package, a 6-year extended warranty, and gap insurance. Gap insurance is guaranteed asset protection. In the event your vehicle is totaled or stolen, it pays off your loan if you owe more than your car is worth.
I contacted the gap insurance. So they said they are not going to cover everything.
When the car was stolen, Pudenvitil's insurance company paid just over $39,000 for the car, and the gap insurance paid almost $6,400. But there is still an amount owing of $6,900. That's because gap insurance doesn't cover things like warranties and maintenance packages.
Since I haven't used any of them, and I'm using my car only for 3 months, they should refund that to me.
Oftentimes, a lot of those products don't add any value to the vehicle. So if your vehicle is written off, but you owe thousands of dollars for all of the add-ons that you purchased, well, you're on the hook for that.
Car Help Canada says dealerships pitch expensive add-ons that may not be worth buying, and if you do, and your car is written off in an accident or stolen, you might not be reimbursed for them. If you're considering gap insurance, make sure you know what's covered before buying it.
Not only is gap insurance often very overpriced, but it's a product for a problem that should not exist to begin with.
Pudenvitil says his dealer offered to refund $600 for the maintenance package, and the warranty company offered him $250. He would still owe $6,000 for a car he no longer has.
Since I owe like $6,000, I don't have any plan to buy a car.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
It's being called the new wave of nicotine addiction. The World Health Organization is out with its first global estimate of e-cigarette use, and it includes a staggering number of children. Those details next in Medical Watch. If you look up tonight, you will see the largest and brightest full moon so far this year. October's harvest moon is also known as a supermoon. And joining me now to explain what makes it so super is Danielle Pahoud, an instructor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the U of M. Danielle, good to speak with you.
Thanks for having me. Nice to speak with you.
First, maybe just tell us what makes a supermoon so super.
Right. So the moon's orbit isn't a perfect circle, which means that sometimes the moon is a little bit closer to Earth than others. And when that, when the timing of the moon being closer coincides with a full moon, we get a supermoon.
And tonight's full moon is also a harvest moon. Is this a rare occurrence, the two of them at the same time?
The supermoon cycle sort of moves forward in like 13 months, like 14 months. So, you know, this probably happens once a decade, roughly, once every, yeah, about that.
Okay, so, and this is just the first, I understand, in a string of supermoons that will take place before the end of the year. What is at play here?
Right. So I mentioned earlier that the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. It's an ellipse. And so whenever the part of the orbit that's closer to the Earth is close to where the moon is also becoming full, we have the potential for a supermoon. And so tonight's supermoon is the first, and then in November we have another one where the moon will be even closer to Earth, and then in December there will be one that's kind of in between the October and November alignments.
All right, when we look up tonight, what are we going to see?
We will see a moon that is about 5% larger than what an average full moon looks like. So it's not a huge increase in size, but it should be a noticeable brightness, difference in brightness if you were an avid moon observer.
And what's the best way to take this all in?
Find a place so I really like to watch the moon at kind of moonrise, because I think the contrast with something on the horizon really emphasizes the size of the moon. So finding a place with a horizon that's clear to the east as the moon rises, I think would be really great.
All right, Danielle, thanks so much for the tips. It was great speaking with you.
All right, thanks for having me.
E-cigarettes are fueling a new wave of nicotine addiction, according to the World Health Organization. Millions of children are now hooked on vaping. The WHO says in countries with data, children are on average 9 times more likely than adults to vape. The UN Health Agency said the industry was promoting vapes as supposedly less harmful products than cigarettes, but in fact was aggressively targeting young people and getting children addicted. It found at least 86 million adults and 15 million children aged 13 to 15 were vaping. A new Canadian study says emotional well-being is just as important as physical health for longevity. Researchers looked at more than 8,000 people over 60 and found 1 in 4 were able to deliberately improve their health and happiness in just 3 years. The key factors were social support, positive mindset, and healthy habits. Experts say it's about focusing healthy habits for the whole person. They believe the findings could change how we approach aging in the years ahead. A group of 3 scientists have been awarded the 2025 Nobel Prize in Medicine.
The 2025 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine jointly to Mary Branco, Fred Ramsdell, and Shimon Sakaguchi.
The Nobel Committee made the announcement today at a ceremony in Stockholm, Sweden. The committee gave the award to Mary E. Branco, Fred Ramsdell, and Simon Sakaguchi for their groundbreaking work with the immune system tolerance. The scientists discovered how regulatory T cells work with our immune system to protect us from microbes trying to invade our bodies. The Nobel Committee chair said their discoveries have been decisive in the field of immunology.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manukin Koster Denture Clinic.
The winter concert announcements keep coming, including iconic 90s rockers The Offspring, plus an all-Canadian doubleheader. Those details ahead in Spotlight.
Everybody's taking the chance.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Paula Cole and Sophie B. Hawkins.
A legendary punk rock band has announced the dates of its 2026 North American tour, and guess what? They're coming to town. The Offspring is currently on an international tour promoting their Supercharged album. They'll perform at the Canada Life Centre on February 5th, and they're bringing along special guests Bad Religion. Tickets go on sale Friday. Visit Live Nation or the band's website. And you can dance if you want to when this band visits our city this winter. Men Without Hats will take the stage at Club Regent Event Centre January 18th. They'll be joined by Ontario new wave band The Spoons. Tickets are available starting Thursday. Just head to Ticketmaster or casinosofwinnipeg.com. And Pumpkin fans packed the Roland Arena on Saturday for a fall tradition that's big in every sense. The Roland Pumpkin Fair returned with family-friendly fun, including a petting zoo, magic show, pumpkin drop, and the main event, a giant pumpkin weigh-off. Charlie Bernstrom of Lancaster, Minnesota, took home the title again this year at 1,715 pounds after winning last year with a 2,004-pound pumpkin. The champion pumpkin's name is Kevin McAllister, yes, named after the character from Home Alone.
So Harper, our 3-year-old, watches Home Alone almost every day, and she'll do she goes like this, and so yeah, so she named it Kevin. Each year, each girl gets to name a pumpkin, and that's what Harper named hers.
Second place was by Corny Banman from the RM of Stanley with a 1,522-pound pumpkin. Now, Bernstrom says he never pre-weighs his pumpkins, which just adds to the surprise. He says the best part of growing giants is the people, especially seeing and chatting with fellow growers in weigh-offs year after year. Now, if you want to see more pumpkins, we have a photo gallery up on our website from this weekend's fair. Just head to ctvnewswinnipeg.ca. And as Taylor Swift's new album sets streaming records, it also helped the pop star win the weekend box office. That's The Fate of Ophelia, the lead single off Swift's latest album, The Life of a Showgirl. Many Swifties got a sneak peek at screenings of a special cinematic release party for the new album. It's Swift's 12th album, and the movie event promised a behind-the-scenes look at how it came together. Those screenings brought in a whopping $33 million US across North America.
I need to find my daughter. Well, then call us back when you have the time.
One battle after another lost the top spot, but brought in more than $11 million US in its second weekend. And critically acclaimed sports biopic The Smashing Machine opened in third place with $6 million, which was well below Hollywood forecasts. And start the week off with some great entertainment. The Voice leads things off at 7, and The Weakest Link follows at 9. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
They're kind of a cross between a snake and a lizard. Money.
Where some curious and cold-blooded friends go to mix and mingle.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
And a look outside, checking out the Human Rights Museum there, 10 degrees in Winnipeg. After a mix of sun and cloud, wind out of the southwest at 19, gusting up to 30. And I said under sun and cloud, it's actually, sun's already setting. It's 6:57 this time of year, kind of depressing. And today we did hit that high of 11 around those seasonal averages, but far below that high back in the 1800s. Taking a look at the long 7-day forecast. Sunday, Thanksgiving. Could be a little rainy, but turkey on the table, can't complain.
Thanks, Danny. Reptile lovers filled the Access Centre in West St. Paul over the weekend for a close-up look at some cold-blooded companions. The Manitoba Reptile Breeders' Expo returned with over 25 vendors from across Canada. Visitors explored a wide range of reptiles, amphibians, supplies, and educational displays. Oh dear. Organizers say more than 1,000 people attended on Saturday alone. I was not there, big shocker. One of the crowd favorites, a blue-tongue skink. It was showcased by Phoenix Kasky.
Creatures, they're kind of a cross between a snake and a lizard because they decided to stop evolution halfway through the process. So one lung is a lizard lung, the other is a snake lung, so they're kind of cool in that respect.
These are the things my nightmares are made of. The expo also highlighted a growing trend in naturalistic reptile care, with vendors offering live plants and habitats. This event, in case you're interested, is held twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, so you can mark the spring on your calendar. I will not be there. Have a good night.